Welcome everyone. This is Rion from Scaffold Design Australia, and this is the first of a podcast, I guess you'd call it, or a conversation that I want to have with different ones from the scaffold industry. I thought it would be interesting to try this out first time. And I have with me Doug, who's been in the scaffold industry for many years. So I thought we could have a little conversation. So Doug, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Oh
How
yeah,
long?
hi. My name's Doug Syaranamual. I've been in the scaffold industry for approximately 38 years, and mainly working on tools, but working as a supervisor, lean hand. Worked in the mines, industrial, as well as a lot of commercial, residential work, and have worked with most scaffolds as tube and fit and quick stage layer, um, hacky, and what other ones are there? More um, in various swinging stages um, in the mines, as well as doing commercial
Sounds like
and
you've
mine
done.
things.
Sounds like you've done everything, Doug.
Yeah, pretty much have covered everything in the industry. So
Yeah,
now I'm sort of looking at doing designing, which is something which which is a great for me to be able to leave the industry and get and still stay in the industry, but um, just to move into the designing part of it. So
yeah.
that's
Good on
something
you,
that
Doug. Yeah,
really interests me
yeah,
as well. So
yeah.
that's my goal further down the track when it comes to coming up to retirement. That's something I'd like to get into more training and developing.
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
how we got connected, Doug. I'm glad I've been able to help you out a little bit there along the way. And so when did you start scaffolding? What got you into scaffolding anyway in the start, 38 years
Um,
ago?
well, I started out as a labourer, as a brickies labourer, and back then they used to just use A-frames. There was no residential scaffold. Uh, bricklayers would, or brick companies would have A-frames which they would erect around the house um, before they had scaffolding. And I used to assist with putting up the frames and obviously putting out the bricks on the scaffold. So after a while, I realised that this is something I'd like to move into. Um, so I ended up getting my ticket, advanced ticket. I moved up to Queensland, got my advanced ticket up in Queensland, and pretty much haven't looked back since. The one thing I like about scaffolding, obviously, is money's not too bad, and it keeps you fit and active, and there's always something different to do. So there's a lot of variation when it comes to not just building, but in regards to using different equipment and also learning different, how can you say, specialised work as like regards in mines and doing drop scaffolds and cantilever scaffolds and different like swinging stages.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of variety in scaffolding, which I particularly like doing. When it came to just doing residential all the time, that wasn't, not that I didn't mind doing it, but I like the variation, different jobs and
Yeah.
different challenges. Which
Yeah, we like to do different things every now and again. Get sort of bored
yeah,
doing the
definitely,
same thing. Um,
yeah.
yeah, so you started out as a brickies labourer. So many have started out that way.
Yeah.
Brickies
Start
labourer
bricking
getting
later.
into scaffolding. Yeah,
Yeah, I thought I thought back then you can only be brickies labourer pretty much. There's not much
yeah,
you can really go.
yeah,
Um, besides that, much further you can go with just doing being a brickies labourer. So I thought, well, I'll get my ticket and and pretty much haven't looked back since.
yeah. So you went up to Queensland. You got your tickets. So,
Yeah,
so where have you been over the years then, sort of scaffing? Where have you been? Where have you
yeah,
been?
well, pretty much based in Sydney. I was always based in Sydney, but I did move up to Queensland one time, and where I got my ticket, it was back then. You had the 6 months training at TAFE, so it was like 2 nights a week,
Hmm.
6 months, as opposed to these days where it's just a weekend
Mm,
or how many days they have it now,
yeah.
full time.
Yep.
So I did that, and ended up eventually moving back to Sydney, and because things were picking up, I'll, mind you, the money was better in Sydney as compared to Queensland anyway, and it's a little bit cooler. Queensland was
Mm,
always pretty hot
yeah. Yeah.
unless you're near a beach somewhere. You could always cool off at lunchtime,
Mm,
but but in Sydney, the money was better, and and pretty much back then they had a strong union. Back in It's probably back in the early '90s.
mm,
Probably not as much today, the union, but and so you had a lot of protection in your work
mm,
back then, and the money was good. So I back in Sydney, so I moved back to Sydney and pretty much worked there most of the time, and eventually we went over to Perth to Onslow, then to Carafa, and worked in the mines at Wheatstone as well
ah,
as at
Karratha, yeah. Hmm.
Wheatstone, and worked at Pluto in Carafa and up in Darwin as well in Itchy's gas plant, and as well as in what was it, Rockhampton, Gladstone,
Yeah.
working on the plants out there on the islands. Um, yeah, so I enjoyed the mining most out of uh, pretty much all the work, because not that the it was only because the money was good and the conditions and and was doing for FIFO. So um, me, it was good for me because I enjoyed it, as well as the mateship,
Mm,
the scaffolding, because
yeah.
you have a lot of guys that get to make friends with, and so it's a real mateship sort of industry to pursue as well.
Yeah, it's like
But
that in the scaffold industry, isn't it?
yeah, definitely. Yeah, everyone's pretty close and everyone knows each other, so it's good to have that. It's like going to work and spend some time with mates and get paid for
Yeah.
it, and you
Yeah.
have a good
Good
day and you
time.
get the job done.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah, so you've been around, been to a few places. So all these
Mm.
places you've been, you said you liked it in the mines. You had any close calls, scaffolding?
Yeah. Yeah, there's been a few close calls. Maybe people dropping stuff, and um, I have fallen from probably two
Have
stories
you?
myself
Really? Wow.
in the early days, because I was probably not as aware as the dangers, and I think I was putting a brace on,
Yeah.
and I was climbing up beside the scaffold and slipped
Ah,
and fell
yeah.
back. So
Mm-hmm.
I was very fortunate that there was one
Nice.
plank leaning against the scaffold on angle, and as I landed on that, it spun me around on my feet.
Wow.
So I was very lucky. That was probably
Oh man.
if the plank wasn't there, I probably wouldn't be around
Bad
I probably
income.
wouldn't be around today. But that's just maybe more aware of and cautious of the dangers of scaffolding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, but there has been close calls with other things, like I mentioned before, with scaffold being dropped,
Mm,
from heights from
yeah.
other
Yeah.
scaffolders, and
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything which has been uh, too bad, like in regards to someone dying, which probably
Mm,
some people have. But yeah, the dangers are definitely there, and stuff, and you've got to come to work and be, sort of, how can you say, just keep keep your eye out for those dangers
Yeah.
and make sure that all your safety is
Spot
there
on.
before you even attempt to start work.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Yeah. I can't believe that story, mate. It's probably not the best way to learn. But
Yeah, yeah.
I'm glad we heard the story. Yeah.
I'd only just started, and
Really?
when you first start, you sort of work hard to prove yourself, and you end
Yeah.
up doing things, which you shouldn't do,
Mm,
but you probably wouldn't know that you shouldn't do when you first start.
yeah.
And but I was very fortunate because, like I said, if that plank wasn't there, I probably would have ended up breaking my neck.
How
But
old
I
were
end
you?
up in hospital. I was only probably 18.
Oh,
18,
goodness.
yeah, just
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the same with a lot
Full
of
of
the young,
confidence. Yeah.
a lot of
Overconfidence.
scaffolds these days, overconfidence and just thinking
Yeah.
they could do it yourself. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I don't do those sort of things anymore.
No, of
I'm a lot
course
more.
not. No. It would have been great to meet 18-year-old Doug, though. It would have been good.
Sorry.
It would have been good to have met 18-year-old Doug. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was a lot more handsome then, but
Oh, we all were,
I had
weren't
more
we?
hair too. I had more hair as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So you're yeah, great story. What are you working on at the moment then? I know you've mentioned designing, so
Yeah,
what's the next thing?
I'm just doing my own design with smart scaffolders. So that's one way I've been able to work to help friends and other companies who own scaffold companies. Occasionally, they call me up and ask me to get design done for them. So I generally do that in between probably work if I do get the time. But
Yeah.
at the moment, as I'm sort of holidaying in Thailand for a few months, I figure, well, it's an opportunity for me to sort of put down the tools for a while, have a break from it, and to pursue something different in industry.
Yeah.
And I think that designing, um, and I've found having my own business, when I had my own business about 10 years ago, scaffolding, but it was really beneficial in regards to
Hmm.
not only helping me to win jobs because having a 3D design shows the scaffold already built
Yeah.
prior, but also helps out with gear lists and working out
Mm.
materials and having that plan prior to building assists with planning to not planning to fail, but planning to make sure that you've got everything covered
Yeah.
before you even attempt to build a scaffold. As I've seen with many companies that they just go in and start building it, and they're forever either short of gear or too much gear
Yeah.
or um, or problems or not even considering the size of the job and um,
Underpriced.
and not have enough gear to get it
Mm.
done
Mm.
and not getting it done
Yeah.
to how it should be.
How long did you have your own business for? Your own
I had
scaffold
that for
business?
about 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I was only a small size business that had enough scaffold for probably 10 houses,
Yeah.
and so I did that for a while, and then I ended up figuring, well, the scaffold was getting pretty old. It was getting rusty. Or it's either I buy a new scaffold, but I was offered a job in the mines for the first time,
Hmm.
and the money was
Yeah.
pretty good,
Yeah.
and that's the sort of job when you do the mines. It's sort of you're working from 7 till doing 10 hours days, 5, but with a business, totally different because you're pretty much still working after you finish work and um, organising. So it's
Mm.
over that 5 years. It was quite stressful,
Yeah.
um, but I learned a lot, basically how to run the business. But at the end of the day, it wasn't really for me because. And the other difficult thing with having your own business as well is getting paid as well from the builders.
Yeah, that's
That
hard,
was
mate.
probably the worst part,
Yeah, yeah. It's hard.
chasing the chasing the invoices,
Yeah.
and having guys show up for work.
Yes. Yeah, that's
So
another common problem. Yeah.
yeah, so you're always
Mm.
coming across problems and errors, and you're having your own business. Um, so it can be quite stressful. And after doing it for that long, I thought I was offered a job in mines. I thought, well, I might as well take a break. Like I said, the scaffold was getting pretty old. End up selling the scaffold and just jumping over the mines, and that
Yeah.
kept me going for a few years. And it was very consistent as well. So the money is coming consistently, and you don't have to worry about chasing money.
Yeah.
It's going to be there in the bank. So I'm probably
Yeah.
more for security and in the long run, as opposed to
Yeah.
just
Most are, mate.
living day by day and
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah, it's hard to
having that
take that
security
jump.
there.
Yep. It's hard to make that jump and, take that risk and do it on your own. But, now that's
Mm.
kind of, that's really a good plug for you because, that sort of experience, not every, certainly you won't meet many scaffold designers who have that experience having their own company. Some of them
No,
have,
no,
some of them
no.
have been on the tools. Like I come from the tools, but I never had my own
Yeah.
scaffold company. That's a whole different ball game. So um,
Yeah, I could have probably done it. Yeah, I mean, and also doing all the invoicing. I mean, it's something that
mm,
I could have probably did a little bit differently in regards to not wanting to do the accounts for myself and passing all that sort of extra work on
mm,
to bookkeepers and whatnot. But I'm glad I had the experience in the first place, and that really helped me to sort of respect the scaffolding companies out there today. Who
yeah,
do it every day and have
yeah,
to. So you might see they don't see me doing much. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes
yeah,
in running the business.
yeah. I think
Yeah,
scaffold companies deserve a lot of respect, especially the small ones. They do it pretty tough, mate. They're still out
yeah,
there trying to build these
yeah,
little residentials everywhere, and to be honest, they don't
yeah.
get paid a lot
End of
for
the day,
what
you
they
just
do.
take the good. You got to take the good or bad,
Mm,
and just hope that the next day is going to be good.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I like that.
yeah,
Um, Also wanted to ask you too about the SAA, the Scaffold Association Australia, which I know a lot have heard about now,
yeah.
and it's sort of gathering a lot of steam across Australia. What have you heard? What do you think about the
Yeah,
SAA?
I think it's a great concept. Basically to have an association representing scaffolders Australia wide, because it can bring everything together. I mean, there's so many differences in the standards, codes of practice across Australia wide. It'd be good to see one standard, a code of practice, which I think Queensland has the only code of practice in Australia, and it'd be good to see that everyone's on par in regards to that, because and I think having an association like that, it can improve the industry tremendously in having different organisations, or like you mentioned before, committees in each state overseeing um, the industry, and everyone getting together and working out the problems in the industry, and to improve on those areas,
Yeah,
basically. Yeah. And
yeah,
one thing I like to see, and like I've mentioned to you before,
mm,
regards to seeing more scaffolders who've got a lot of experience and been on the tools for quite a while, and with that knowledge, in regards to designing. And that's an industry that can open up for a lot of the old guys and old hands who can move into that industry and continue working industry, in regards to designing scaffolds as opposed to building scaffolds.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree. It'd be great to see a lot of these old heads who have been around for a while and that they know scaffolding pretty good.
mm,
And I rely on a lot of those guys, even for designing, because I do a design, they can they call me,
yeah,
or reply to me. So just they'll do a little markup or tell me what I should change.
yeah,
Things I wouldn't even think of doing because there's no such thing as a standard scaffold. You sort of there's all sorts of ways of doing it. So and
yeah,
approaches as well to different problems. So to have there's a lot we can these guys we need to show a lot of respect for and get as much out of
yeah,
them and get them into the industry as much as we can to sort of help out.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of them tend to sort of, finish, probably retire early, and because obviously scaffolding's not an easy game, and some of them end up with injuries and bad backs
Mm.
and bad hips and knees, and
Yeah.
and a lot of these guys, it'd be great to see to have an option for them to be
Yeah.
able to get into an industry which can they don't have to worry about the physical part of it,
Yeah.
but still have the knowledge that they have to be able to help the industry in a different way in regards to designing. And like you said, yeah, with that experience and the background experience, it would be a great benefit to the industry um, with having their knowledge, having the knowledge there
Yeah.
to do
Yeah.
that.
Involved wherever they can
Yeah,
be, whether it's designing
yeah,
or in training
yeah,
or
training
or
or
just in
moving
helping
into
the young guys somehow. I don't know, but
supervising role, or
yep.
yeah,
Yeah, anything. Yeah,
yeah.
any sort of
But
oversight.
yeah, but the more opportunities for them, the better at the end of the day.
Yeah.
'Cause, like I said, a lot of them just give it up once they get injury, and just
Yeah.
find it difficult to get back into it again, without having to look at um, not looking at alternative options to be able to stay in the industry, but not being without having to be on the tools.
Yeah. One other thing I wanted to say about the SAA, Scaffold Association Australia, is that, and you made a good point of this, is that um, it brings us, we have the opportunity to do things so that we're all on the same page, which is important. And a lot of people have said that it's just a Queensland thing. But in reality, although historically you could probably say that, but honestly, so uh, we have they have a committee in each state now. So they have a national committee, but they have a committee for each state. Now they're still trying to trying to get ones to fill in different chairs there. Now I'm part of the Victorian committee. There's three of us at the moment. There's still a couple more we can fill in.
Yeah,
But I basically Tweed Heads area spent my time residential there, and another in Brisbane a few times. Sydney, I've worked a few times. So for about
yeah,
7 or 8 years, and then I've come down from that area, sort of Northern Rivers, Northern New South Wales, and then Brisbane. Worked for
yeah,
Cogent Scaffolding there, and I come down through country New South Wales. Now I'm in Victoria. So I've
yeah,
been in the industry, 20 years, not as long as you, but
mm,
the guys on these and girls who are on these committees, they all have very different um, careers, like the career path in the scaffold, but we're all from the scaffold industry, and we're not from
yeah,
Queensland. Like that's not most of us are not from there.
yeah, yeah,
Where so it's definitely not it's not a
yeah,
biased at all. It's all
yeah,
about
yeah,
the national interest
yeah,
for
definitely.
scaffolding.
Yeah, 100%. Well,
Yeah,
that's definitely important, and it's necessary to sort of bring everything in alignment with all states, and and with Queensland. I've seen their code of practice, and it's really good. it'd be good to see a code of practice in scaffold, and like I think Queensland's the only one that has a code of practice. And like I said, so many different standards from each state, and they're different. So it'd be good to see something from to be brought together, which will make it pretty much unified across Australia.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
that'll happen. That'll happen eventually. I think they have a few other more important things they're trying to help push along.
Yeah.
Like training. I know you mentioned your experience with training, but what about you? What do you think needs to be worked on in the industry? What do you think?
Um, yeah, definitely training. Definitely training. Let's see. I'd like to see people train from. I mean, basically, a lot of them just go out and get their basic ticket, and they sit on their basic ticket for as long as they want. It'd be good to see people, like even have a ticket to have a apprenticeship, basically, like they do in. I think they have it in UK or in New Zealand. You got to see like a 4-year apprenticeship, even before scaffold ticket, and to have a training on even before being a basic training in being a labourer,
Yeah.
before they even get on the tools. I mean, because a lot of them come out and don't know what a standard is or a ledger, don't know how to lay out the gear or how to stack gear or how to load gear on the truck or even pass gear. I mean,
yeah.
And a lot of people just go and get their basic ticket without knowing the basics even before building, and even how to tie rope or stack stillages. Probably, or just the basics of even building before you even learn to build scaffolding.
Yeah.
There's a need for that. I mean, there's so many guys that we get out on the job, which labourers, and they've never done scaffolding before.
Yeah.
And there should be some sort of, ticket like a white card, or something like that, just to say, hey, well, I've done 2 days training, and been a scaffold's labourer.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of injuries happen. The ones who they come out on side, they're young, have no knowledge of scaffolding at all, and what the equipment is, and that's where it can get dangerous, and a lot of injuries can happen. If they've got no idea what scaffolding's all about, and how it should be handled, or whatnot. So, and then that's something they should learn even maybe for 6 months before they even, once they get some sort of idea, before they even get a basic ticket. Because a lot of guys end up with basic tickets, want to just get out and just want to start building and be on the tools. But
I agree.
And they don't want to do any of the labouring side. And I think it's like even learning to be in the yard, maybe spending a month in the yard just learning about the equipment, is probably a good idea before they even send anyone with no experience at all about scaffolding to a job site. And that's where I found a lot of guys who've learnt in the yard and come out from the yard, and gotten the tools. These guys are pretty good because they've had a fair knowledge of the scaffold, how it's stacked properly in stillages, and how to even basically lay it out and set out so it can be for the best way to get the job done.
Yeah, they could even they'd get gear off the truck and put it on the truck if they wanted to. These guys
Yeah,
from the
yeah,
yard. Yeah, I agree.
yeah.
I
So
mean,
there's a lot of work to be done even
yeah,
before,
yeah,
and training in the area of labouring,
mm,
and knowing the equipment, how to carry the equipment properly.
yep,
Guys carry equipment and don't know how to carry it properly, end up doing an injury.
yep,
End up
yeah.
sort of either dropping it on
RSI,
themselves
yeah,
or
uh-huh.
doing a back injury.
Yep,
So yeah, and that's
mm,
where I figure, I would say most injuries would happen, but there might be only small injuries, but there's a lot more of those than there is than um, the serious ones.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
agree. I know the SAA are working on this, and they're in sort of in talks with the SANS, the New Zealand Scaffold Guys Association
Oh
over
yeah.
there. So because they do have more of an
Oh yeah.
apprenticeship type program, so they're trying to see
Mm.
what's been working for them. I know here in Victoria, I know one of our committee members is working pretty closely with trying to get some sort of training. They're actually trialing a bit of a training program, so apprenticeship
Yeah.
type. So all these things they're trying to feel their way, try and find the best thing to do here in Australia, and we'll just see
Yeah.
how it pans out. Mm,
I think what's happened, there's been a huge amount of work and they haven't been able to get enough guys. And if guys are and that's where they've just flooded the market with
mm,
guys um, with belts who probably haven't got um, nowhere near as much experience. Um, so you know, with all these extra workers without the experience, and you've got a lot of the guys with experience. There's a lot more less than there's a lot less of them than there is than the guys who probably haven't got as much experience on the tools.
yeah,
So that's sort of made, like I said, with the industry being not getting enough guys, um, they've had a lot of guys come in just doing a basic ticket just to get on the tools and to get in the industry. But a lot of them. I mean, there's a lot of guys even out there today who don't even have a ticket
mm,
and they're on the tools.
yeah,
Don't even have a basic ticket,
mm,
and um, and that's probably another thing that's got to be addressed as well. Making sure that guys do have their tickets before they even build scaffold. I mean, you can. I mean, there is. I think you can build up to 4 meters without a scaffold ticket, but there is a lot of guys out there without tickets building above that anyway, because they just can't get enough guys to be able to do the work.
mm,
So they've had to cut corners basically to make sure they can get scaffold put up. But then they're jeopardising workers who are doing the jobs that are unqualified.
yeah. Well, I think a lot of
Not
these
enough
things
experience.
a lot of that will change soon. Obviously, safety is the number one reason, but I think also
Yeah,
just having more quality and more efficient workers out there sort of know what they're doing. You
yeah,
sort of
100.
have a
Yeah,
better idea of when you get a ticketed scaffolder or a qualified scaffolder, you sort of have a much better standard. So that's
yeah,
what we
definitely.
all want. So that's what they're all aiming for. And I don't
Yeah,
think you'd be able to get that without the SAA. So
yeah. Well, that's it. It's just managing that. So then to make the industry safer, and that's probably the main thing. It's,
yeah,
safety at the end of the day. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, because the thing is, I mean, you can have guys, the inexperienced ones, and um, and the thing is, um, and if they're up on the scaffold and they just drop something, um, you know, it's fatal. It can be fatal.
yeah,
Uh, and and in such a high risk industry, I mean, experience or at least basic experience or a ticket is necessary before even building scaffold. At the end of the day, I mean, at least they've had some training, and they're a little bit aware of the dangers that can occur.
Yep.
Yeah.
So at the moment, so you are hoping to get more into the design field.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you're looking to build up some clients there. So
Yeah.
I'm 100% behind you on that one.
Yeah.
Happy to help you out wherever I can on the training side. Just let me know.
Yeah. Well, your training program's been fantastic, and that's helped me give me more insight into designing, as I have my own program. But that's really helped me to get more insight with using a CAD as opposed to using one which is already set up just for scaffolding.
Yeah, thanks, Doug. Yeah, I appreciate
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Um, yeah, so thanks a lot for coming
Yeah.
on this. They call it a podcast. I don't even have a name for this yet, but I'll
Yeah.
come up with something eventually. But either way, this is episode 1, and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll make some more. I hope
Um,
all of our listeners or people watching this enjoyed it. If they did, I hope they like it. Put a tick on there, put a like on there, thumbs up, whatever it is.
yeah, well, I'm glad to be the first one. So
Yeah,
thanks for that, Real.
I'm glad it's you too, mate. But we'll chat soon,
All right,
and
then. Okay.
I appreciate your time. But
Yeah. Well, yeah, I appreciate and sharing my my background and about the scaffold industry and like you said, I with the Australian Association, I wish them all the best of luck and hopefully they can get that up and running and sort out a lot of the safety issues that are out there, because there's a lot more than people see, and I been on tools all the time, I see it all the time, and there's a lot of road companies out there who just have no consideration for the safety of their workers as well. So all these things have got to be looked at, and hopefully the National Association will be able to to sort that out.
yeah, well said, Doug. Thanks, mate.
Yeah,
That's good.
all right.
We'll
Thanks
sign
for that,
off
Will.
here, mate. We'll talk soon.
Okay, thank you. Bye bye. See you, mate.